All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. We've been going over the AppInventor2 Create Your Own Android Apps online PDF textbook by Wolber, Abelson, Spertus, and Looney. And we're very much in the middle of Chapter 4, the No Texting While Driving app. And we're about to add information so that we're able to save our stuff in here persistently, okay? So what we want to do is we want to call the tinydb1.store value, and we're going to put in a couple tags. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But let's bring up the call tinydb1.store value. Now, as mentioned in the book, when you do this, you're going to need to put in two things, a tag and a value to store. The tag, as they mentioned there, think of that as kind of like being the name of your field or the name of your data. It's got to be unique. All right, we're going to call that response message, and the value to store is just what we literally, okay, what we want to have happen, all right, when the app comes up again. So that'll be the response label.text. So we want response message, which is our name, response label.text, which is our control's name, and its get text event. So for this tag, I'm going to come in here to text, drag in a blank one, and we want to call this response message. You may or may not have noticed this. The R is lowercase and the M is uppercase. Many programmers use that kind of caseness. It's called camel case, where you capitalize the beginning letter of each word except for the first word. So if it was called my tax rate, the M would be lowercase, but the T in tax and the R in rate would be all uppercase. So again, that's the name we're using. And the other thing we want is we want to get our response label.text. Right? I believe that's everything, and I believe that's the way they set it up in the book. So the author says here, this is the bottom of page 9, the reason for storing this is in the database is so that it can be loaded back into the app the next time the user opens it. You've seen this before, but App Inventor provides the screen1.initialize block that if we drag that out and put stuff in it, those blocks automatically execute when the app launches. All right, some other languages you might have in a init or something similar to that, or something that naturally runs when something starts. So for this app, as it says, what we want to do is we want to load the custom response from the database by using the tinydb.get value. We just used the set, and now we're going to use the get. So these are the blocks that we're going to need. The screen1.initialize, which, as it says there, is triggered when the app begins. The tinydb1.get value, which gets the stored response from the database. Our text response message, as it says, plug this text socket into the get value, making sure that the text is the same that we used in the store value earlier, and the actual text. All right, and we will set the response text to that. So this is the code that we're about to put in here. Now, as the author says, to understand these blocks, you have to envision a user opening the app for the first time, entering a custom response, and then opening the app several other times. The first time you open the app, there won't be any custom response because there's probably no need to, so you'll have the default in there that says, I'm driving now, I'll text you later, whatever the heck that was originally. On successive launches, you want to be able to load the custom response in. So let's bring in the initialize. Again, I'm going to take this for now at least, and I'm going to collapse the block and put it down here. All right, so we want our screen1 initialize. All right, taking it from the top, we want to set our response label text. Okay? And we want to set that equal to, we want to call, so pretty much I think we have this, something similar to this, but now we want to use the get value. So we want to go to our tinydb1, we want to use the get value. We're going to plug that in here. All right, again, I'm going to move these down a little bit so they're not in the way. Make sure you don't, of course, you don't want to put them into the trash here. All right, so the tag that we want, and then the value if there's nothing there. So the tag is the response message. This will be our default. I'm driving now. I'll contact you shortly. So let's first bring in the response message. And this will be, I'm driving right now, I'll contact you shortly. Okay. So, as mentioned on the bottom of page 10 here, when the app first begins, the initialize event is triggered. It will go out to the database, and it'll look for a response message, and if there's not one in there, it'll use the default. So again, that's exactly what this is the default. If we've changed our response message, it'll show, but otherwise we'll use the default. One thing I wanted to mention to you too is if I go back to the designer, notice how this says, I'm driving right now, I'll contact you shortly. All right? And if I do come back in here, and that's what it says here too. Notice how this says, I'm driving right now, I'll contact you shortly. If I do come up into the emulator, and sorry, too busy to talk or text now, and I click modify response, you can see how that changed. All right, but the point is, if we go back and look on here, that has not changed. That's still going to be our default, and it shows like that in here, but as you've seen in the emulator, we have changed it. And I guess I can't spell very well, but you get the idea. Again, there won't be data the first time the app is launched. This will be the case if the user types in a custom response. So we're going to use the second parameter, our default, value of flag not there. All right. Now again, I'm not going to test this, but as it says, to test the behavior, you need to restart the app to see if the text is truly persistently being saved and retrieved correctly. In fact, I guess I will do that. All right. So what I'm going to do for right now, okay, is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just, so I'm driving right now, I'll start to talk to you shortly, and we had, sorry, too busy to text or talk now. Let's fix that. So sorry, too busy to talk or text now. So now it's correct. Okay, we're going to leave this emulator up for a minute, but I'm going to stop my app that's running. Go back to Create Apps. Go back to my no texting while driving. All right. And go back to my emulator. And notice it's still, and you might say, well, that you just because you haven't changed it. Well, let's go back to Connect. And let's reset our connection. All right, I'm going to like to again wait about 15 seconds and then do a connect emulator. Now this is going to take a minute or two, but that's okay. I believe this is worth doing, in my humble opinion, as they say. Last one that I just finished. So hopefully the emulator will be up quickly. It has been running very well so far this morning. And I can already tell I'm going to have at least one more lecture in this series, in this chapter, and there may be two more depending on how far we get. Right now, I like to always check my time. We're at 10 minutes. So once this comes up, we're probably going to stop this particular one. Now, if it works okay, it should say up here, sorry, too busy to talk or text now, or whatever it is we put. But it's not this message. It should be, there it is. Sorry, too busy to talk or text now. So we saved that message in our TinyDB or in the phone's database. Notice we still haven't changed. This message right here still hasn't changed here. That's still our default. All right, great. So, speaking the incoming text aloud. Looks like there's going to be a lot of work in doing that. So let's again stop where we are. We're making good progress here, and we'll pick it up with the next part of this lecture very shortly.